Hello, everyone, and welcome in to episode 38 of the Fuzed Relativity podcast. 38 is actually a funny number to me because when I first met Kirk, he made the joke that 38 is snowman and half a snowman. And I think that that's awesome.
That would have been a much better title, Chris.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's half a snowman and 38. You screwed it up. No, that's half a
Listen,
snowman.
it just popped into my head, Kirk, and I ran with it. What can I say? But it fits.
No,
Yeah.
that was old school.
Yeah. So anyway, episode 38, Friday night. Hope everybody is doing well. John, how are you doing this evening?
Been a busy week, but good.
Definitely a busy week. I can vouch for that.
Yes, amen.
Kirk or drum solo? What's
I
going
just
on?
thought, who doesn't like a drum solo? You know what I mean? Like it's a weekend, it's fun. It's been a while since you've heard a good drum solo, so I just threw that out there. I'm doing good. I didn't have to bartend today, so I'm feeling nice and loose and rested. So, what are we talking about? A real quick story. I took before the show. I went to a local bar, little brewery, and I took Shoop with me, and I had 2 beers, which takes about an hour. Half hour of beer. Good pacing. But in an hour's time, do you guess how many people Shoop got food from?
I'm going to say hers is about one every 10 minutes. So I'm going to say 6.
Close. 4 people in that span. Like, she's like a hustler. She just like this little old lady who had a Ziploc bag for her dog that she brings to the bar with. She's like, no, you're giving me most of that. Oh, like it was just, and I'm like, you could tell her no if you wanted to, but it's gonna be easier if you if you just fork over the food, lady. It's kind of like, look, like she's not gonna bite you, but she's gonna persist. So if you can I don't believe in feeding my dog, so if you can live with that.
When I go to restaurants, I've adopted the same theory. I walk over to random people's cheeseburgers and just stare at it until they get uncomfortable and hand it to me. Eventually,
they'll wear down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, all right. I mean, with the drool and the let's not talk about the smell. They can't even eat. The stomach is turned. Okay, John, real quick. I had a medical. I learned something medical. I want to see if you know it. Do you know the medical term for when an elephant has a cold? Do you know? What
No
it's called?
clue.
It's called lots of junk in the trunkitis. Lots of, and in that same vein, a friend told me he saw a lady with lots of junkyard dogs in her trunk, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Was it frightening or she was just mad hot? Seems like it's scary. It's going to attack you. So, your guys' thoughts?
I don't like either of
All right.
I'm going to stay away from elephants with colds, 1. And 2.
That's a touchy subject. That's a hot button. They'll blow up Twitter. They'll have to shut it down.
The funny thing is, and I'm probably wrong on this because, accuracy, but the rhinovirus is, cause of most
colds, yes.
Common colds. So when you were like elephant with a cold, I was like, it's technically rhinovirus.
It's the trunk. That's the trunk connection. Doesn't
I
work
know.
with rhino. All right.
I like your wit there, though, John. Elephants got rhinovirus. It's all confused.
Doesn't know what's happening.
Uh,
Okay, so what are we talking about? That's that's it. That's end of intro. Now on to the show.
Well, to start things off, I came across a story this week that I found particularly interesting, and I don't know Uh, if you guys have ever heard of the story, I know you've heard of it, but Valiant Thor.
There's a reason it's not mismarked or mislabeled in the. I labeled Valium Thor on purpose.
It's a verbal joke. Is someone calling you out on it? Is there a...
No. I just want to clarify that the reason we've titled this Valium Thor is because that's my thoughts on the matter, and Kirk gave me the great pun.
So, all right, Valiant Thor was an interesting story from the Eisenhower days. So, this is a little hard to be anything other than a story because we're talking late 50s? So
yeah, Eisenhower's 50s, yeah.
Yeah. So essentially the story goes that this guy was found in a field in Virginia, and when the police show up, he speaks to them telepathically and tells them that he needs to talk with the president immediately. And the story is that for some reason they took him to see the president. And Eisenhower agreed to meet with him without any hesitation. And the guy revealed that he was from Venus and that his mission on Earth was to bring peace amongst everyone so that we would not use nuclear weapons and destroy the planet.
Right. I think that was the first ever jam band show. And that guy was just like, that's my theory. He just stumbled upon it and he was just loving everybody. And he's like, you know what, Mr. President, I'm from Venus. I figured this out. Let's get rid of the nukes. They're bad.
See, and it's funny because if you search the Valiant Thor, the first result, the top result is a band.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yes, it actually is.
It's a psychedelic
the second
band,
part was that's not even true. He didn't say he was from Venus. He said he was from what the planet your Bible calls the morning and evening star. Because I just happened to pull up the Wikipedia page to look. Which is why I immediately... I started reading this. I got to the point where I was like, oh, it was an evangelic... I flubbed that word completely.
Right. Well, and not for like, and I read a lot of presidential history books, and I went through a 600-page book about Eisenhower, and none of this came up, and it was very detailed, very thorough by scholarly guys, and like if this would have anywhere somewhat close to happen, somebody would have noticed, the deep state, but somebody would have heard about this because the guy's holed up for several weeks and stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, look, this is a conspiracy theory of types, and nobody really knows if it happened or not.
So but that's a no.
I found it to be fairly interesting. It's just one of those like
kind of what ifs.
Yeah, it's just a story that can't be proven one way or the other, but it's fun to think about for me anyway, because they talked about his spacesuit, which, all right, now this was the one thing I did find off, was that apparently it was like coveralls, essentially.
Space coveralls, right?
Yeah, space coveralls.
He's from Venus,
but they were like super, really light, right? Like there was no weight, but it was like bulletproof or something, or flame retardant, or
so
it had Scotch Guard, something.
Yeah, so apparently the government did a bunch of tests on the spacesuit while he was here, and it was completely indestructible. They tried lasers, they tried heat, they tried cutting it, and they could not, quote unquote, damage the spacesuit.
Do you think you go lasers first? I mean, if you're the military, when like at a certain point, bullets, wouldn't you just like stretch it out and take it to the firing range and just kablam it?
Well, that's what I would do, but I'm sure they did it in steps,
See, the laser wasn't even invented until the 1960s.
So you think.
It mainly just fucks with cats and most dogs.
So I will take. I understand where you're going with this, and it's more the concept of, hey, this was about, not nuking each other, which I get. That's a logical statement. But then you have things like the Flat Earth group that sit there and they say, the Earth is flat, yada, yada, yada. And in the concept, the whole point of the Flat Earth Society was the fact that the Earth everyone used to think the Earth was flat, and when it was proven that it was round, the Flat Earth thing was like, hey, this isn't, what isn't necessarily the right thing. Always keep testing and looking and doing. And that's why, we found out that the Earth was round. It was more of a, don't let things that we know stay, static. Challenge them.
Don't rest on your laurels. Keep exploring. Keep going to the next thing. Don't go, okay, we figured it all out. We can stop, and we're done.
Yeah, keep experimenting, stuff like that. But then people took it into the literal sense of, the Earth is flat.
And it always kind of jumps that way because with conspiracy theories, and I jumped down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, but apparently there's a conspiracy theory out there now where people still think the Earth is hollow and it somehow houses celestial bodies.
So Godzilla, yeah. That was a fun movie. I liked that movie. It was a good one.
Well, clearly, who doesn't know? I mean, that's scientifically proven. Let's just go on. I mean, Godzilla and, Andre the Giant are living in the center of the Earth that's hollowed out.
Well,
need we discuss it more?
I mean, this is my problem with conspiracy. Like, I love good conspiracy, but they've gotten weird.
Well, and of course, I mean, weird. Yeah, let's define that because they're all weird, but
the extreme right has taken over a lot of the conspiracy, avenues, though.
Well, but you can look at, before you say that, you can look at some conspiracy theories that have actually been proven. And so, not all conspiracy theories are completely insane. Like the MK Ultra, that was proven. So when you look at those type of scenarios, people started those as a conspiracy theory, and then they were eventually conceded as being true.
Well, yeah, and sometimes you hit the lottery. Every once in a while, you leave a casino with a little more money in your pocket. I mean, it does happen, but
and government
percentages are against it.
Yeah, I mean, government-based ones likely have a bit of, potential to them. It's just that I don't know. The fact that one of the first sentences with the Valiant Thor one was like, it was an evangelical preacher. I'm like,
well, I'm not saying that it wasn't hokey. Trust me, I'm not I'm about as skeptical as they get, but
here's my thing with it. It sounds like, yes, I agree. It was the whole, let's not nuke each other, which is fine. It was the when the aliens start preaching about God is when you kind of start losing me.
Well, my first thought was, isn't Venus solely inhospitable? So
yes, that's the thing is it's high pressure, high acid. We've done a video on it. It's like.
But what about you were talking about like Mars? Maybe it's underground. Maybe they figure out a way to live underneath it.
And that's perfect, Kirk, because John, this was going to be my tie-in that I hadn't proposed to you yet, but this is what got me thinking, right? So it ties back into what you were saying about never stop looking. And I started thinking about Mars, right? Because there's lots of conspiracy theories about Mars. And one thing that we've talked about on the show is if we were to go to Mars and become have a commune on Mars, you think that the best way to do that would be to go underground, correct?
I didn't say the best. I said the safest would be to go underground.
Okay. So, what are the
most
odds?
practical, the most
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah, practical.
You want to save lives, this is the safest way to do it.
So,
Starting out.
And my thought was this. Why, if we're thinking that, what are the odds that on Mars right now there are living beings underneath the ground?
Well, here's the thing. I understand that. So this is a conspiracy that I can get behind because it is one that is being proven more and more potentially factual. And that is the fact that life is not as easy, or the whole myth was life is extremely hard, and Earth was one of the few places that, it propped up.
Right.
Which is why
very special circumstances.
Yeah.
It's very specific, but you're saying no.
Well, and it's just the more and more that comes out, like we've detected potential life on Venus in the upper atmospheres. We've detected we know that there are plenty of moons, or at least one specific moon around. Which one is it? There's so many of them. It's not Titan. Help me out, Chris.
Well, Titan. Are you talking about
the
Titan?
one with water?
You got Io, Europa.
Well, but so
Evian.
there is liquid water on Mars. They've proven this. They have video of it seeping out of the ground. Not video, but pictures depicting it. There are ice caps on Mars that would potentially lead to the fact that there is liquid water at least somewhere underneath the ice caps, just like with, there's liquid water under Antarctica. Just because it's frozen doesn't mean further down it's frozen. There is the potential that there is water.
Potential water.
Yeah. And if there's potential water, that means there's potential life.
So what you're saying is that potentially there could be living beings underground on Mars. We would just have to look for them.
Yeah. They're not going to be super... So I get what you're... Like, they're not going to be super advanced. You're not going to go and potentially find these super advanced colonized things that are living off the ice. We would potentially have detected them by now. What they're likely going to find are single-cell, possibly multi-cell organisms that have somehow converted and survived in caverns near the ice lakes, potentially, of Mars.
Okay, so pale, weird, worm-like things that live in caves and can, on no sunlight and dark, that kind of, the bottom of the ocean floor kind of creatures, odd things.
Which would make sense because there's potential proof that, Mars had liquid water, and it was set up very similar to Earth, and then things happened that made it geographically inactive and got rid of the magnetosphere and all of that. That all left, which meant all the atmosphere left, which meant, there's not, it's just dead. Not dead.
So my conspiracy theory that evolved in the end was, wouldn't it be fairly simple to outfit a rover with a ground penetrating radar or some sort of ability to look into the surface of Mars and find anything that may or may not be living?
Sort of doing an ultrasound.
No.
Doing an ultrasound on the planet, essentially.
Well, yeah. They're already kind of doing this. Which is the one that was taking seismic readings? There's one that's on the planet that's taking seismic readings, trying to do the core and stuff.
Snagglepuss.
I'm just saying, with the amount of technology that we have here on Earth.
Here's the problem, from my understanding. And again, we are not specialists in this, just mildly interested.
So the business cards I printed up are just nonsense. I should throw those away. I can't use those.
So the big thing with sending stuff to the glaciers on Mars and everything is contamination. We don't want to send a bunch of equipment to areas that may potentially have life that potentially has life on it. That's why a lot of the places that we send our equipment are kind of like, low risk. That's why there hasn't been a mission specifically to the caps, the ice caps.
So we're extra sensitive to stamping it out because, like, when we came to the U.S., we weren't particularly, like, we're being extra sensitive, it seems.
Well,
about what are going to be the impacts of us touching down.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, if we were to send something up and it was like, oh yeah, no, there's no life here. We can't find anything. And then we send a manned mission up and they survey the same area and they're like, oh shit, there's tons of life here. What's to prove that it is native Martian life versus Earth life?
Something we brought with us that just kind of hitched a ride and
then found a way to survive and replicate and go crazy.
But the thing is it found a way to survive and it's flourishing. So what's the difference? I mean,
it's more the contamination aspect. Like, if you were, so you've seen how bad some of these conspiracies go in the realm of politics and stuff. Like, if there was a shadow of a doubt and they said, hey, we found life on Mars, there's a very, very, very slim chance it could have been from Earth. The people that would be extremely against the fact that there is now life on a different planet are going to hinge on that fact that there was that small sliver of a chance, and they're going to use that to discredit the fact that there is now life on Mars.
So you're saying, like, religion wouldn't be able to deal with life on other planets, and so they would.
That's, if you look at a lot of the theories, that's the reason why that aliens haven't been, or released or shown. Or, I mean, look at Men in Black. I say this, but it's in fact it's a poignant point from the movie. When they say that a person is smart, but people are dumb and panicky. It trends.
Well, and I think going to that point, I think if there was any evidence of aliens, it is best that we don't know about it, just because people couldn't as a whole handle that.
Yeah,
but also if there was life on Mars, there's no chance that they would release that information. It's too doctored.
Is this such a distrust of the government has built up that even if they release stuff, you'd like, well, they're giving us the filtered version. It's not the CIA's,
I don't
at a certain
believe
point
that.
Is that you don't believe anything.
Because they've given that. If that was the case, they wouldn't say anything about water being found on Mars. Or water being found in the atmosphere of Venus, or, water on planets or the moons. I think it's more the fact that, there is a definite, like, I don't want to say kids' gloves, but.
Well, now, if your brain is programmed for religion, it seems like it already knows the answer, so it'll find a way to wrap around to make it make sense in its own. You know what I mean? Like, at a certain point, so it'll just, of course there was life there because it was transported by the boot of the guy, and no matter if it's true or not.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if you look at some of the theories surrounding, like, the UAP and the UAP report, and how, over the last 10 years or so, they've been releasing more and more, and they're opening up about, hey, we'll start reporting this stuff and stuff like that. The one of the big theories I heard was that, it was that they are conditioning us to being used to hearing about aliens, so that when they finally come out and be like, yeah, that's not that's not from planet Earth, people don't go, oh, holy shit, you mean there's aliens? It's more of a, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Give people 6 months, they'll deal with it. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, especially if they look like Alf, they'll love it. It'll be fun.
But I think as a collective, Kirk, it's something that would potentially be game changing as far as if there were aliens. Now, we're not saying aliens in the sense of Mars attacks where they're going to come down and kill everybody, but we haven't had, whatever encounters that we've had haven't been, there's no like video evidence on a camera phone of an alien, but I still think that people as a whole would not be able to handle it very well, and that's why they're keeping it under wraps, if that's the case.
I don't know. I think just people seem like they're programmed to hate people they don't know. Hey, you're from a different country. You're from a different state. You're from a different planet. Oh, I really hate you. It's just like this based in just, I don't know. Maybe they're nice. Not to be all hippy dippy. Maybe they're nice. They'll bring a pie. They'll bring a pie and everything will be fine.
Unless they bring the iPhone 20 and then people will be like, oh, you're all right.
That would be the worst thing they could do to society. That's horrible. Yeah. They really, everybody, you know what? No more going outside. Everybody look at no more eye contact. Thank you, aliens, for just crushing eye contact.
So, I had a train of thought and I've lost it.
And I took you down a road that you didn't expect to go down because the conspiracy theory stuff, it piques my interest because it's fascinating.
No, and I agree. And that's why I followed a lot of them and, paid attention to some of them. It's just that they've gone off the rails as of late.
It's like a soap opera. Occasionally they get a little too dramatic and like, okay, that's not.
Well, no, it's that they've gone political. And that's the problem. It's like, if you look back before 2015, there was a subreddit that was dedicated to just conspiracies, and it was, the typical conspiracies, like there's lizard men and all of this other stuff. Now, if you were to go there, it's just political stuff.
It's the algorithm. That's what gets the clicks. That's what the eyeballs. Even the National Enquirer, the trashy, it's just going political because that's our WWF wrestling. That's what's happening. Right?
I've heard this theory too.
The problem is that the conspiracies are easy to latch on to no matter what they are. And so politics is a hot topic and it's easy to latch conspiracy onto that, especially to try and paint a negative picture in one way or the other.
Oh,
right. This happened because of this. They passed, and then thus this happened. Thus this caused it. So boo that guy.
Yep.
Ironically, I think it's going to be self-correcting eventually, but yeah, it's. I do kind of wish there was more thought-provoking theories, like this, like when you were trying to bring up Valiant Thor. Like I was going to talk about how the whole Christianity thing and how, aliens that are preaching the word of God probably aren't aliens. But, it would be more like...
Well, and I was focusing more on the aspect of where can a conspiracy theory take you? Specifically, like, they had one of the conspiracies I looked into was Project Gladio, which was something about the government burying munition stockpiles in, I think, Italy as part of one of the world wars. Anyway, they did their best to try and denounce it, but I think everybody's come to the consensus that it was probably something that actually happened.
Yeah, well, and it's hard. Like the more you hear about the military, just like I'm reading they will. There's never a problem you could present to the military. Well, they'll go, we can't do that. They'll work at it, and even though it's infeasible or it's just not practical, they think they can crack it if they work at it, which I don't know. Seems a little arrogant, a little unhealthy.
And one of the other ones, John, I wish I could remember which base it was, but there's an old decommissioned base that's hidden away somewhere, and it's been inactive for years and years, and it's abandoned. Yet anytime anyone tries to go there to videotape stuff, they get run off by armored vehicles.
But But it's stuff like that I can potentially lend. Like, the government does do some shady shit, and there is definitely programs that the government is hiding that they're currently working on. This is not... I mean, look how well they hid 51 and the Skunk Works. Like, it's... Was it a, massive thing? Yeah, because the SR-71 was, and still is probably one of the most unique aircraft that has ever flown. But I don't know. I'm sure you remember some of our uncle's stories, right?
Sure.
Like, he had the one that popped to mind when you were talking about this was he was driving between here and Utah. He was behind a convoy. Convoy turns a corner. He turns it just a little bit later, and the convoy's gone. And he's just in the middle of the mountains.
Peyote.
Well, and so, yes, but it's, I don't know. I guess when I start to listen to these conspiracy theories and stuff, I think I get lost in it myself because I start to imagine, like, what if this were the case? And what is the government hiding? And do aliens exist? Could they be under the surface of Mars? It's a fun rabbit hole to jump down if you're open-minded about it.
I remember the thought I was going to do now. And yes, I agree.
I remember the thought. Shut up. Anyway, go ahead.
No. I was just going to... It was more of my, typical wonderful, bubbly personality. The thing with the whole alien thing is if they exist, they are either just watching us like a zoo, and that's the only outcome. So they're either exist and they're watching us, or they don't exist and we haven't found them yet. Because the alternative is if they were really like militaristic, like most movies make them out to be, we'd already be dead.
Oh, totally. If they wanted, if a race was that advanced, they would have already taken us over if they wanted our planet.
What about this idea? I mean, like conspiracy theories like this, it's fun. It seems like it scratches a mental itch. It gives your brain something to work on and to think about and to puzzle out. It's so if it's in the hobby fun activity phase, it's fine. But when the people get addicted and it envelops their life, then it gets out of control. That's when things get a little nutty.
And that's the downside.
Well,
it can get out of control. The likes and the endorphins and the thing and the screen time. Yeah.
I have a personal story with this. It was someone that I worked with for years. When I first started working with him, completely fine, level-headed. Then I think some sort of event happened. Like there's the theory that this one I kind of believe is that there was a squirrel that chewed some cables at the Hadron Collider. Remember that?
No.
Yes, of course. Who doesn't? What? No.
Sorry, I'm looking it up. So, sorry, not squirrel, weasel. So the theory was that the weasel shut down the Hadron Collider by chewing some cables, and that, the Hadron Collider was potentially shifting us into an alternate reality. But, point remains, he fell down that rabbit hole of, just conspiracies. Like, I'm almost convinced he didn't think space was real, and I don't know if it was because of flat Earth or something else. But
it's just amazing the power of the algorithm. Your screen repeatedly showing you things that are going to anger you and keep you looking at it. It just keeps feeding you that, and that's all you think, and then that's your reality. Yeah,
it got to the point where I couldn't talk to him because it was just it was nonstop. It was this conspiracy or 5G towers, or I was like, just stop.
Right. And if there's if you can't have a conversation, there's not we agree on these certain facts. If we don't agree on you're just talking back and forth. You know what I mean? Like you're just blah, 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 blah. But if you can't agree, like this is the color blue, it's nonsense.
Well, and
The other thing that I get a kick out of, John, is thinking about like some of the smart people who have come through the ages, going back to like Newton and Aristotle, Einstein, Stephen Hawking, all of these guys who have just like brain powers that the average person can't even fathom. Sometimes I think those guys are aliens. You know, just looking back at like, how do they know what they know, and how are they that smart?
They got dropped off from some place. I've heard that. No, a lot of like Jimi Hendrix was an alien dropped down just to show us a different way to play music. I've heard that theory. Like, you know, there's like this guy is off the charts. Nobody, it just all when he came after him, stuff changed. It's not a bad theory.
Yeah. Men in Black, I think, had that one because it wasn't Elvis an alien. I distinctly remember that.
Yeah, it seemed to be. He'd be like, you know, Sinatra, like just those weird cats. They were just kind of like out there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting to think about, though. I like going down that rabbit hole, but I also know I'm level-headed enough to come out of the rabbit hole and not lose too much sleep over it.
Here's the thing that really got me with the stuff was that how. Let me ask you this: if you were to believe that aliens existed, how could you not believe that people have gone to space?
Wait, what?
So that was part of my issue was he believed aliens were real, but we had not gone to space.
Oh, I'm assuming you're talking about your coworker.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, here's a better conspiracy. I just wanted to bring that up since I was thinking about it. But the conspiracy that I had that I came up with, and it kind of fits, and I tied it into a few things, but Russia has now twice accidentally fired stuff or rockets engines on the ISS. And then this week they have blown up a satellite that was in a potential orbit of the ISS. Like, are they purposely trying to take it out of the sky?
Well, they still have a couple of their own guys on there, right? Or
yeah.
There's no Russian. Okay. It seems like they wouldn't sacrifice their own.
It's Russia, though.
They're cold-hearted. Yeah, I mean, like Sputnik, they shot a dog and the dog didn't come back alive.
Are they? I think they might be the only ones that have lost someone in space.
Well, and the theory is they're trying to work with what, China now on a new space station?
Well, they're trying to. China doesn't really care. Well, and that's the thing is, there's this whole thing that China and Russia are like BFFs. They hate each other. They've always hated each other. The only thing that's keeping them in, you know, hey, we're kind of friends, is that they all hate the West.
Right. They like the color red. Both of them. They're bonded with that. They fight over that.
Yeah.
I want to wear red. No, I'm wearing red.
But I could see the conspiracy theory, specifically with Russia doing all this crazy stuff that's against the ISS, simply to maybe push it back, you know, just to like, oh, this thing's falling apart. I guess our space station's going to have to go up now. It could happen, you know, just to be a power play.
Well, and do we just need like a villain? Like, it's easy to have Russia as a villain. It's like that, you know, it worked well in the 80s and the Cold War, so it's just familiar. It's like, you know,
they're doing it to themselves.
Gravedigger versus whoever. It's
not even like it's. So they blew up one of their own satellites, which it's controversial, but America and China and, you know, we've all done it. Not to say it was better or anything. The difference being is that when The
Wait,
U.S.
when you say they blew it up, does that mean they did it on purpose, like it was old and archaic, and they were just getting rid
They
of it?
shot a
Or did
rocket at it. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so they took it out purposely.
Yes.
We don't need this no. What about that? It was out of date, and we don't need this no more. What's wrong with that?
The problem is it is in a orbit that is relatively high. And when you blow up something like that, it takes one trackable object and turned it into upwards of 1,500.
So the shrapnel,
yes,
it might take out if anything's close.
Well,
it can pepper somebody.
It's the theory that and this is where people were wrong. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, ethically, it's wrong. If you were going to take out a satellite and you were just trying to prove concepts of something, then you would pick one that wasn't going to potentially hit the ISS.
Well, and you just do one way lower, because if it was in a much lower altitude, the debris burns up quickly. This could take years and years for the debris to eventually deorbit.
So they could have moved this satellite, like we could have program it to come down lower to a lower altitude, and then it wouldn't have been an issue.
It was dead. It wasn't moving on its own.
Ah.
In layman's terms, Kirk, it was a dick move.
Yes.
But could have been done better. Okay.
The thing that I saw that kept pissing me off was that everyone was like, "Oh, this is Kessler Syndrome. This is the start." I'm like, that's not Kessler Syndrome.
Kessler Syndrome, John.
Yeah, I hope I'm saying it right too. It is where I am. It is where there's a debris field in orbit that prevents any rockets or anything from leaving the planet. Now, this satellite is in such an orbit that the gravity will eventually pull everything back, and it will end up back in Earth's atmosphere, burning up. That's not the issue. The issue is it could potentially take years and years and years. The thing with the Kessler Syndrome is that the field is well above the gravitational pull, and it just starts taking out, like, all of the geosynchronous satellites just start getting taken out, and there's just this massive field of debris that you just can't get a ship through without heavy damage. That is Kessler Syndrome. This satellite is nowhere near causing that. Could it cause massive problems for Starlink and shit like that and the ISS? Absolutely. Could it potentially end the ISS? Absolutely.
They're trying to get rid of the ISS anyway. So.
Well, it's slated to be done in a couple years. The biggest thing is these debris and this debris cloud could potentially impact orbital launches. Like if the speed at which these things are going is ridiculous. And when you have something, if you're just unlucky enough and you have your spacecraft that intersects that path, which is extremely unlikely to begin with, but if it did, the spacecraft would be gone. There would be a hole the size of,
So these things are going fast. These spaceships cannot drive 55. That's what I'm hearing?
Think of you're throwing a baseball at 20,000 miles an hour. That baseball is going to go through.
That's going to blow out your elbow. You're going to get the Tommy John surgery.
But it's going to put a hole through anything you throw at it. Steel, whatever. It's just going to go straight through it. That's the same with these little pieces of metal and plastic and shit that is up in space right now. It's going so fast that if it intersects with something, the damage is it's just going to go in and out.
Well, I've heard, with the amount of new satellites being introduced, there's they're terming space junk. I've heard that term before. There's just stuff floating around, and you think no big deal. But if it's whipped in the atmosphere going that fast and it hits you, it's kind of a game changer.
This is where I kind of I think it's an issue, but it's not an issue. We've had this talk before where space is massive. At the altitude that the ISS is at, it's the Earth's surface times 100. So the chance of you potentially running into something you could have millions of satellites out there, and you could still, fly through without ever risking hitting anything.
There's so much space, you're good.
Yeah. The problem is when you blow up something like this, you create a cloud of shit you can't track that could potentially have problems because they don't know where it all went. I mean, they'll probably model most of it and get a good, like, hey,
yeah, come on. Some space nerds have some math projection where they have an idea where this stuff will float, though. And I guess.
Yeah. But that'll all it'll be. It'll be this yellow zone of be wary because there could be shit in this that could, punch a hole straight through your skull and you would never feel it.
All right. That's like a traffic report. Avoid these areas. Take Sepulveda. Yeah. Don't cut over on, Colfax.
Well, speaking of rocket launches, John, let's transition over real quick. I did want to talk about this evening that SpaceX is planning the first full orbital launch of Starship in January.
Oh, they pushed it back. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen because the EPA report was set to finalize like beginning of the year.
Well, these bastards just pick. I'm tired of making a cake every time and being disappointed. You know how many cakes I've made? It's bullshit. Can we get it together? I'm wasting cakes.
Yeah, and in fairness, Kirk, hold off on the cake because Elon said that even though they want to try for the Starship 20 to get into orbit, they are very not concerned necessarily, but he's under the impression it's not going to go well.
Oh. I mean, they've only had one successful landing. They've never flown. That's the thing. That's a PR play. Is he's gonna say, "Hey, this probably isn't gonna go well because new technology," and they did this all throughout the landings and all of this. It's like they always put a very high, "Hey, this probably isn't gonna work. We're going to try it, but we don't think it's going to work." And then when it works, they're like, "Oh yeah, we didn't expect it to work at all."
Well, there's a bit of a show going on. Like he seems like P.T. Barnum. He's putting on a show. He's titillating. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this may not work, but like he knows. It seems like he's just stoking interest to keep it going. Like it seems like he's the modern version of the traveling circus. Am I? Anybody else?
Yeah, it's PR. He's saying, well, and the other flip side is how many people are going to turn up and watch if he were to say, "Oh no, this should work completely fine. We'll have no issues," or if he says, "Yeah, there's a good chance it's just going to explode."
Well, and it's kind of a good deniability factor too, right? Well, it's probably not going to go well. Okay, so if you lay that out there ahead of time and something bad happens, people aren't disappointed.
You're lowering expectations already.
Correct. Yeah. So if it goes well, people will be like, "Hey, it worked." But if it goes poorly, people will already know ahead of time.
It's like when somebody tells you this is a horrible movie and you see it, like, "That wasn't that bad." But when people go, "This is the movie's amazing," it sucked. You know what I mean? Same thing.
Yes. Or like, "Hey, you should hear this new band," and then you listen to it and it's terrible.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, not for me.
But also in Elon news, John, I saw that a couple of emails that were released to the employees. Did you see that?
I did not.
It was kind of funny. So Elon sends out emails to the employees. And the first one says, "Hey, everybody, it's cool. You guys can listen to music while you work. I don't see a problem with music. If you like it, if your coworkers like it, blast some tunes." Sounds pretty, nice, right?
Sure.
And then he follows it up by, if anybody else has any ideas for how to make the workday better, please forward them to me. I want to make sure that you're happy to come to work for, I think it was Tesla.
I would assume Tesla.
Yeah,
wow.
He's like, so anything that you can think of that would help out make your workday better, please let me know.
Let's prevent that union from ever forming.
That's we want, and then you do everything to fight unions and not give them decent pay. You know what I mean? Where it's just kind of like, shut up. It's wearing thin. Like it seems like it's on its last nerve a little bit. Or like you're not even trying.
I think the fact that John Deere and the whole Keebler strikes have shown that things can be different. Because John Deere went back to work.
But the very next day, which makes it even more ironic, is he sent out an email to everybody at Tesla that said, basically, if you have 3 responses to something that I tell you to do. It can be, you're wrong, and here's why. Oh crap! I lost it.
You're right. If you want,
probably yes, sir, or I'll grab my stuff and leave.
Yeah,
people do. I think they isolate themselves in the bubble where if no one ever tells you anything but yes, sir, I think you kind of almost become drunk with power. You know what I mean? Like where you lose touch with the common person.
Right, and essentially, it came back to like at the end of the email, it came back to any manager who does not follow through on those 3 options will be immediately asked to resign.
Oh, he'll get a verbal warning and then a written. I don't know. That seems like corporate shenanigans. That's never prove that they'll be follow through on that. I mean, I hate to be negative and shitting on it, but like whatever. Like it's just like empty words.
But he did say in his, he was like, prove to me that it's not correct, and that I'm wrong, because I'm often wrong about things.
That seems healthy. I like that. You know what I mean? Because like they say like if you think you know everything, then you never learn. So it's like, hey, if you can prove there's a better way, I don't care where the good idea comes from. I like good ideas. That seems to be a healthy attitude.
Well, Stainless Steel and Mechazilla are a good...
Well, yeah, he's not shy of adapting things that save him money.
If it works, right? That seems good.
Since we're talking about capitalism...
Oh, Jesus. We're not talking about capitalism. I told you no. What's your fix? What's your fix, John? I'll give you like 4 minutes.
I don't even need that. It's simple. No multi-state retail or fast food or company.
Huh?
So only local businesses?
Yeah.
Or like small...
Well, no, not necessarily local. Just not out of the state. Because if you think about it, how many Walmarts are all across the U.S.? And almost all of that profit goes to the Waltons who live in what? Alabama or something?
Right. They suck out the money and it goes to shareholders and profit and things like it. It doesn't remain in the community. So it
goes to the states. So what's the best fix? No multi-state, limit it to the state. That way you still have competition within the state. It improves tourism because now, Colorado's McDonald's might be way different than Texas McDonald's.
That's a terrible idea.
I think people are comforted by the fact that it's going to be the same, and no matter where they go, it's going to taste like McDonald's.
You see where I'm going with, though, right? You limit the power that a single corporation can have. Because
that's not fixing capitalism, though.
No. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if you guys have ever used. We have a little Asian supermarket here, and the thing that I preempted was people would say if Walmart didn't have the ability to buy all of its shit in bulk and whatnot, the prices would be higher. But you go to these little one-off shops that aren't chains, and the prices aren't that much different than Walmart. Like, sure, it's gonna be a little bit more, but it's not twice the price.
Right, you're part of what you're paying extra for is to support a local business rather than giving to a corporation that sucks it out. So it's like a, I don't know, a non-corporate tax or a non-douche tax or whatever you want to call it.
But I mean, ultimately, the money would all stay in state, or the profits would all stay in state. And I'm not saying this was as a meant to, we're going to fix capitalism. I was just saying, as in the state that capitalism currently is, this could be a potential fix to eliminate some of the problems.
It could help put things in move things in the right direction. Help the pendulum swing the other way.
My only thought on this, John, is the problem is you're just going to have people moving. Okay, so I'm Walmart. I'm just going to pay someone to live in Colorado and run my Walmarts for me.
Well,
it's not going to change anything.
Potentially, no. But my thing was, and it was mostly for like the fact that there's only like 3 companies that own all fast food restaurants right now. That most local restaurants do not survive because of these mega chains. Same with.
Well, they need to get better then.
But that's not possible when you
it becomes so cheap. Like they're shoveling this horrible slop filled with chemicals. It's not food, but it's so cheap. It's easier. It's cheaper and more convenient than buying something more expensive that's healthier for you, and you can cook.
It's delicious.
If you're hammered, that's the only. If you're excited to eat, something's wrong. If you're sober, can I just say that? Can I throw that out there?
My point would be, and I'm hoping you can see where I was going with this. If this was something that could be implemented in a correct way, the competition of local businesses would be better. Like, you cannot have a local business that does, any sort of retail goods and expect to survive with a Walmart or anything else close by.
Well, but under that theory, you would have to shut down e-commerce, and that's not going to happen. So, you're kind of fighting yourself because e-commerce can't exist in a single state.
Why not? So you'll sit there and tell me that if we had the money and bought a warehouse, filled it with a bunch of shit, and said, "Hey, we only deliver to Colorado, but we'll deliver it same day."
Yeah, but that makes you a statist, and I don't, I'm not cool with that.
Yeah, because it would work. And you wouldn't be dumping all of your money to overload Bezos.
I'm not into that theory. I think it needs some more thought.
Oh, by the way, Bezos is a dick. Anyway, you just carry on.
I'm glad we could get that into this episode because we haven't. I think we missed it last week, so we had to throw one in there.
Just in case you forgot, which I know you didn't.
You're just mad I fixed capitalism.
No, I totally disagree. I disagree with your whole statement, and we could talk about that later. But I think right now we should go over to Kirk's Corner. Lighten things up a little, Kirk. Let's go.
Alrighty. Let's go for some into Kirk Corner. What do we got? All right, there's a new green thing. What is that?
Oh.
It's like a plant?
It's Pinocchio.
I had the idea as a joke, and then I was like, that's what it ended up as.
Nice. You know what? I'll hook that up to my monitor so I can see that, and then I'm sure I'll chuckle more.
Oh, but you have a martini.
Oh, hey, that's at least liquid. Hey, look at that. It's going in the right. Look, it's so much more liquidy than ketchup. I mean, more. Unless it's at the very end.
But Kirk, we've discussed this, and martinis are gross. So,
yeah, I was in college, and I ordered a James Bond martini, and that was a tough. That's a tough drink. Just olives and ew. took a while.
Yeah, see, I don't do the olives, but I like martinis. But I like the vermouth. Gin and vermouth.
All right. Well, once
It
again,
says-
you're wrong.
It says a lot.
Okay. Well, for Kirk's Corner, I had an idea to it was another comedy edition. I thought like kind of comedy tidbits over the years. And I thought I'd give you guys hosting tips. If you guys thought about doing comedy, probably the first paid gig, most likely you're going to be hosting. So I thought I'd just kind of talk about that because it's not just going first. It's like a different mindset. Because have you guys like one of the first places I ever hosted was in Looney's in Colorado Springs. John, have you been there? It's in your city.
I know of it. I've never been to it.
It's like on a cat. You've never been. Oh, well. So anyway, if you're a comic and that's probably going to be your first paid gig. Like it's just you and you're introducing two other guys, like a feature and a headliner. And some clubs, basically just your job. It's your party and you're introducing your friends.
And you'll cry if you want to.
Well, if the show goes badly, but you know what I mean. Like, and like as an opener, like you got to be like that's where you got to have clean material. So you got to like write stuff that's not offensive. Like you guys would be amazed. Some of the clubs are so particular. Like you work for chains, and they're like, the opener can say shit, but he can't say fuck. The middle guy can say fuck, but he can say it less than 5 times. Headliner, you got carte blanche. Like it's like there's got to be like a build. And it's kind of like the way I would describe it is like if you showed up to a house party and you walk in and somebody runs up and goes, "Hey, I've just loaded up we got some heroin going, and then the hookers are coming over later." You're like, "Whoa, let me get a drink first. Let me try some dip," right? You know what I mean? Like you have to, you can't be so offensive or gross or disgusting up top. Like you got to like ease them into the night and like you're setting it up for the other guys. Does that make sense? Are you guys following?
Yes.
Okay. And it's just another, this is as someone who's seen a lot of shows, like when you're hosting, you say the comic's name at the end. You wait to the end. Like you know what I mean? Like it's supposed to go like, everybody get up for your next comic. That's how it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like, and people will go like, your next comic, Joe, boy, he's funny. And then you see Joe start to go to the crowd onto the stage, but then like, wait, he didn't say my name yet. And the crowd is like just confused. So just say it at the end. Yeah. It's so funny. Like, and just another thing about hosting is, if you're doing like an open mic and there's like a bunch of comics, just keep it rolling. Like just keep your thing is the best compliment an open mic host can get is good show. Cause that means you kept it rolling. You didn't talk in between and you just like kept them coming. Cause like basically like you do your set up front. And then if you do material in between comics, the crowd looks at you like, why didn't you just tell us that at the beginning? You got to hold, and then so you're just dragging out. So just as a host, the fun thing to do is just whatever the comic's big joke was, if it was, it got a big reaction, it was shocking, it was gross, it bombed, whatever their big thing is, if you could tag it up and then just keep it moving. You know what I mean? It's just, that's what you want to do. You guys are bored into silence. You're just sleeping.
No. We're listening. That's all we're doing, Kirk.
All right. Yeah. So just, I don't know, just keep it. Yeah. Do your time up front, keep it moving. And just, yeah, like I said, it's, if you're having fun, they're having fun kind of thing. So just, like I said, just pick the right material to be likable, clean. Like I said, it's you're hosting a party and you're just setting a stage to have a fun, silly night. All right. So there's Kirk's Corner. That was the comedy advice. So I don't know, any questions, follow-ups, any further debate?
No, every time we get some comedy advice from you, it's a little refreshing just to get a little bit of insight into what it's like to be in the comedy world.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys know your space and technology and stuff, and this is kind of like so yeah, just trying to share it. So once again, if you've thought about going to 3D printing, here's some advice for you. If you've thought about trying comedy, here's some tidbits that I picked up. So hopefully that helps some youngster out there who just wrote his first dick joke,
Of which there's many.
Yes.
There's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be you're gonna write a lot of bad ones. There's gonna be a couple, but just occasionally write something other than is my best advice too.
Oh, I got to redo my whole set then.
Right. It's just they get bored occasionally. Like if it's all about that, like I remember one guy I told him, I go, just next time, just 50% less shit jokes. Just not the whole thing. I know it's fascinating to you, but just let's cut her in half and then we'll go to a quarter. But it's the power chords of early comedy.
All right. Well then, Kirk.
Let's get the hell out of Kirk's corner, right? We're leaving.
We're leaving. We're on our way out. Back to the podcast studio in space.
Right.
Yes.
Still no flies, by the way. Just saying.
Keep forgetting. I'm going to write a note right now.
Yes. That's awesome. Glad you could keep going with that, Kirk.
If you could put the flies like a little space costume, that may be more work, but it's funny. Like a little the classic helmet in the space.
All right. Well, it's the time of the night. Let's go off topic. Close out the show. I'll go ahead and start this week. I have an I think it's interesting, but so I don't know if you guys have seen these, but I just stumbled across them. So they started making bulletproof clothing that is not like a vest that you would see military or police wear.
Like casual wear, like a golf shirt.
Yeah, like they have polos, hoodies, jackets.
Oh,
that's
yeah, it's definitely a commentary on our current times.
We realize so many people are getting shot on an average basis that why not be casual while taking a slug?
Dude, so one of the companies that I saw when I was turned on to these, the guy who made the company makes their jackets that are, as we said, bulletproof, but he actually tests them himself from time to time, and people who work there at the factory have to test them as well.
See,
wow.
That's
faith in product, yes.
And a little bit, illegal.
There's actually a video on YouTube of a guy, he point blank shoots a dude with the revolver in the jacket, and the guy didn't even flinch. He was like, oh, it kind of felt like a little finger flick.
That's got to relieve some tension around the office. I mean, how many people would you want to shoot? So if you could shoot somebody you worked with and it's okay, I think it would release some, just saying, could bring people together.
Damn it, Jerry, stop doing that.
Bam! All right.
See, I don't buy it.
Which part?
Any of it.
I think it's great. If you believe in something specifically.
Yeah, but I don't. It sounds like something someone made up. Because I get where you're going at, but you can't make bulletproof stuff that's like that. That would stop. Now, I mean, maybe a blank.
Don't get me wrong. It's not for like an assault rifle. I mean, it's
so
not
what are they
designed
shooting with, like 22s?
It was a slingshot. It was a nasty look. It was a nasty look.
I was going to say, yeah, you'll be protected from all the fucking rodent hunters.
Now, they've rated some of these clothes up all the way to 45.
Those rubber bands and the paper clips?
You see where I'm getting it with, right? Like, you cannot take a point-blank gunshot without some sort of recoil or
liability.
Well,
Yeah.
the bigger the gun is, apparently it does, it's going to hurt. It's just not going to...
Because it hurts with regular bulletproof stuff.
Yes, it's going to hurt. It's just not going to pierce, is the key.
You get a bruise, but not a bullet hole.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff being tested. It's not...
I think it's awesome. That's all I'm saying. I saw it. I thought it was cool. I liked it. Watched the video. Take it as you will.
Like the one I found, because I Googled it, it's just a bulletproof vest underclothes. You'll have to send me the thing.
I'll send you a link.
Anyway,
go for it.
Mine was about how they have programmed an AI to predict 8.9 million different designer drugs.
Come again?
Designer drugs means...
So the way I understand it is, you have like... and I don't even know the correct way because, I'm so hip with drugs. Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Yeah, you didn't even know about junk and the titus, so that, I mean, clearly you're dropping the ball in your medical field.
It's where they chemically alter the current drug just enough that it falls out of any legal... It kind of moves it from, hey, this is illegal, to, it's like, technically, it's not... That's how we got, like, bath salts and shit like that.
Right, like kind of generics. Like it's a cheaper version knockout. It's close enough and kind of in that ballpark.
Well, not necessarily generic, just like...
Yeah, you're thinking prescription drugs. This is like hard drugs.
Oh.
So if you took meth and you made it somehow chemically different to where it was technically could be used as a window cleaner, but really it's just meth with a different name.
Yeah, then... it's stuff to skirt the legal loopholes, and like a lot of it's with there's one that's floating around right now that's marijuana based. And I can't think of what it is. But it's under that same thing. It's completely legal because it's not technically marijuana. It's a synthetic compound that's close to.
So the AI is supposed to predict that?
Yeah, so the what I've understand is they were like, hey, predict all the designer drugs that might happen. And so it predicted 8.9 million. The thought is now that they have the potential 8.9 million different combinations or chemical combinations that could be used, they can say, hey, all this shit's illegal. To prevent, someone from making meth 2.0, selling it, and making a shit ton of money before it becomes illegal.
And killing a bunch of people.
Yes.
Oh, technology. Look what we can do.
Predict drugs.
Hard-earned taxpayer money at work.
It's
right.
Canada, too, so not even our taxpayer money.
Oh, well, never mind then. Go for it. All right, Kirk, what do you got?
Right. Let's silly it up a little bit. My story is about Ripley's, believe it or not, is collecting human hair at a Florida expo in an attempt to set the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest ball of human hair. The current record is 167 pounds, set in 2008 by, say it with me, Missouri barber Henry Coffer, the Coffermeister. You guys know him. Everybody knows him, right?
Kirk, I dubbed this story gross.
You don't, but no, hot. It's only he's only up to 100 pounds. It was 100 pounds in 2019, so they still need 67 pounds. Just hair, like you can offer up your hair. You can go cut it off and make a hair. Like to me, this just, I don't know. This is a perfect Florida story because there's just too much time on their hands. If you're collecting this much hair. I don't know. Seems like cats are insulted. They're like, hey, this is what we do naturally. You guys are stealing our shit.
I think a giant hairball of other people's hair. It's just
Right.
it's a little gross. That's all.
All right, not a fan. John, and you're stunned into silence.
It's interesting.
Believe it or not, from Ripley's.
Yeah,
Well,
I can't
guys,
be wrong. That's it.
Hey, yeah, it's 10:15. I think we can wrap this show up. And, decent show talking about conspiracy theories. And John, huge downer on all my conspiracy stuff. Just to throw that out there.
Hey, I can say the same. I fixed capitalism. You.
No, you didn't. You only think you did. Let's talk about it, but not right now. Kirk, anything else to add to the show before we sign off?
No, I have a good Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of stuff because we won't talk to you until after Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, our next
Save
show
us the leftovers.
Our next show will be on Black Friday.
Yes,
that's fun.
Yeah, everybody will be in a coma from not shopping except online and eating a bunch of food. So
I worked the night before.
Oh, me too. Yeah. But you know what? We'll be slinging out deals of interesting commentary and fun. That's what we'll be offering. So come join us.
We are the six-legged Thanksgiving turkey of podcasts.
Oh,
right.
Oh.
Like Biden was supposed to pardon us. I'm like, no, I want those dead. I want them dead.
That sounds too human centipede for me. Let's not.
That's Monday or Thanksgiving football. They do a six-legged turkey.
Oh, that's right.
John Madden.
Yeah, John Madden. Get the turkey leg, but there's 6 of them. Not saying it's not weird. It's just tradition. That's all.
Okay. Speaking of that, we were ending the show.
Yes. Goodbye.
Good. All right. Well, for me, John and Kirk, everybody, thanks for listening. We will be back at you next week. Happy Thanksgiving. Lots to be thankful out there. And everybody, go boldly, friends.